Hello and welcome to Gundry's Guides episode 6. My viewers, all three of you, have commented that this is meant to be a British wildlife channel. So, in the most mature response I could think of, I've chickened out and renamed the channel to get around this. But I will be out of bugs to photograph soon, and if not, I will be bankrupt. So anyway, we will be back on the British wildlife soon-ish. Today, the images come from a photography session with Josh Aspinall last Sunday of the amazing Titan beetle, 4 beautiful flower beetles, and 8 ridiculously cute weevils. The coleoptera, or beetles, make up a frankly ridiculous 40% of all named insect species and 25% of all named animal species. Hal Lane was right that the creator, whoever he or she may be, is inordinately fond of beetles. Their physical robustness, combined with surprisingly impressive flight characteristics, has been a winning evolutionary combination since they first appeared at least 295 million years ago. Having said that, I just typed in the wrong search term and have learnt instead that Please Please Me is the first Beatles album. It's great to know that, but not hugely relevant to today's video. The mass of all the world's terrestrial arthropods, the vast majority being insects, is estimated as 300 million tonnes by Rosenberg and colleagues, a paper from this year. This is a number similar to all of humans and our livestock. It's such a shame that humans and our livestock dominate the world's ecosystem so much, but it does emphasise the massive importance of arthropods, which, as I've said, beetles make up a huge amount of the diversity of. Many beetle larvae are wood-boring grubs, with the record weight of one being the 225 grams, or half a pound, of the larvae of one of the giant South American beetles from Gundry's Guides episode 3. Most agree that Africa's Goliath beetles are the world's heaviest adult insect, and certainly the heaviest flying insect, at 50 to 100 grams. However, my choice of specimens is built firmly on my shallowness, so I've collected large, pretty beetles, and have avoided the Goliath beetles so far. The longest beetle on Earth, if one ignores horns and enlarged jaws, is, by quite a margin, the Titan beetle of tropical South America. This is one of the more gratuitous of the many examples of extreme retail therapy in my collection, and he is fabulous. The largest adult ever found was a ridiculous 16.7 centimetres long. There's one nearly that size for sale on Etsy at the moment for the minor price of £2,500. Little is known of the Titan beetle's life cycle, and its larvae have never been conclusively found, although they are almost certainly giant wood borers with a development period of a few years. The adult does not feed and is nocturnal. They have huge, beautiful eyes. Given the animal's size and how about a third of the head surface is made of the eyes, they may be some of the very largest eyes found in the insects, although they lack the huge resolution of advanced Diptera and Odonata eyes. Such a huge resolution is impossible to achieve at night anyway, as the signal-to-noise ratio is too low at night for the small ommatidia that a very high resolution requires. Male Titan beetles find females using the latter's pheromones, and they can fly, although not from the ground. They need to climb trees in order to take off. There is a fabulous video of David Attenborough handling a huge wild specimen in Life in the Undergrowth from 2005, which you can find online. In this, he explains with his usual enthusiasm that he has to be careful handling it, as its jaws can cut through a pencil. Seeing the animal running through the leaf litter is amazing. Really large leaves are being sent flying by the sheer heft of this fabulous creature. A study on the gas flow vessels, the trachea, passing through the leg joints of smaller beetles suggests that were a beetle to be larger than the Titan beetle, the cross-sectional area of the air vessels passing through the leg joint would be the same as that of the joint itself. Clearly an untenable situation. This reminds us that the lack of efficacy of a tracheal gas exchange system at large body size is one of the reasons insects do not get to truly giant size in the modern day. But the tracheal system's extraordinary efficacy, if the animal is small, is one of the main factors behind insects' global success. Insects simply do small and terrestrial far better than any other group. Next is a set of 4 stunning flower beetles of the genera Torreyarina and Romarina. I think I've mispronounced those. These are of the scarab beetle family, which numbers over 35,000 species worldwide. Famous scarabs include the many dung beetles, the Goliath beetles, the Hercules and rhinoceros beetles. See Gundry's Guides 3 for examples of the latter two. The ancient Egyptians venerated a robust dung beetle, Scarabeus sacer, which is resident to southern Europe, northern Africa and western Asia. The beetle was to the Egyptians a symbol of Khepri, the early morning manifestation of the sun god Ra, from an analogy between the beetle's behaviour of rolling a ball of dung across the ground and Khepri's task of rolling the sun across the sky. The Egyptians also observed young beetles emerging from the ball of dung, from which they mistakenly inferred that the male beetle was able to reproduce without needing a female, simply by injecting his sperm into the ball of dung. From this they drew parallels with their god Atum, who also begat children alone. Several members of the scarab family have structurally coloured shells, which act as left-handed circular polarisers. This was the first discovered example of circular polarisation in nature, and was known about as long ago as 1911. This structural colour is, very broadly, the same sort of thing as causes the iridescence in the wings of the morpho butterflies and the male Ornithoptera. As you can see, these beetles are fabulously colourful and are very popular amongst collectors for this reason. Finally for this episode are 8 beautiful, colourful weevils of the genus Pachyrhynchus. There are at least 64 species in this genus worldwide. Unusually, they are flightless, so how they have spread to so many Southeast Asian islands has remained something of a puzzle. How do they cross large areas of sea? The eggs are laid inside host plants and the larvae are wood borers, so perhaps these species spread when limbs of their food plant float to another island. However, the adults can trap air under their fused wing cases, so perhaps they make the journey, floating across the ocean driven by wind and waves. Nevertheless, experiments have shown that most adults die within 12 hours in water, and all within 40 hours. Whereas, larvae can survive in immersed Barringtonia wood, this is a key host plant for these weevils, for up to 6 days. And if they survive this, they will successfully emerge as adults. Eggs can sometimes survive ingestion in passerine birds, including the brown-headed thrush. So all the evidence suggests that the eggs and larvae are the major propagators, not the adults. This is rare in insects, where adults' impressive flight characteristics tend to make them the major propagating stage. But with a flightless weevil, this is obviously not an option. Ye and colleagues wrote about this in a 2018 paper in the Journal of Experimental Biology, which delves into this issue in a lot more detail. Excuse me. The weevils as a whole are a hugely diverse and successful superfamily of 97,000 species. They're usually less than 6 millimeters in length, although these 8 are larger than that. A weevil's characteristic snout hosts chewing mouthparts, often used to excavate tunnels into grain. Weevils are often food pests, although others can provide valuable biological control over species such as the hugely problematic invasive water hyacinth. Unlike these weevils, most of the group can fly. One species of weevil from Southeast Australia was the first known beetle to exhibit eusociality, which is full sociality with spectacular reproductive altruism, in other words, sterile workers. This is usually confined to the much better known bees, wasps, ants, hornets and termites of the Hymenoptera and Isopteran orders, so this is an amazing piece of history. So how do I shoot these? I mean, this is meant to be a video series about photography and not just of photos. Anyway, so how does this all work? Well, you need a very steady tripod because you're using either very long exposures or you're using video. If you're using video, I tend to try and pull focus or do something else that gives a little bit of movement to the shots. And as you can see, even with very solid gear, with a huge amount of magnification, you do get a little bit of wobble. You can decrease the wobble by slowing down the video in post-process. This will also smooth out any problems you have in pulling focus. So I tend to record this at 30 or 60 frames a second and then halve it, slow it down 2 or 4 times in the post-process, depending on how I captured it. These are shot on a Z9, although a far cheaper camera would do the job absolutely fine. And I use a 24-70 for the basic, almost product shots with my fingers in for scale, in case you're wondering why you keep seeing my fingers. And I use, in this case, a macro lens with a 1.4 times converter and extension tubes on it to give me something like a 2-to-1 macro effect. So the tightest images here, the whole image size is probably about 15 to 20 millimeters across. Apart from that, I edit these together in Photoshop. It's got a quite basic video functionality, but is fine for everything, almost everything I need here. I write and then record the audio myself, and usually do it on a Sunday when I'm tired and croaky, as you can tell, and try and keep the videos to less than about 8 minutes, although it really depends on whether I've got anything useful to say. You can normally tell by the end when I don't have anything useful to say. That's a quick summary of how it works technically. And for a final shot, here is what the Weevils look like in scale with the Titan Beetle. The latter really is an amazing animal. Thank you very much for watching. There should be another video online before Christmas, hopefully about British wildlife this time. And please let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like me to cover. Cheers. Bye.